Hello and welcome back to another Cloudisms video. Today I would like to make a pretty clear distinction for you guys between two very important words with the Solar 3.0 system, and those are Scorch and Ignition. Now to start things off, if you read the little tooltip there, it'll tell you that a Scorch will lead to an ignition if enough stacks are applied. Thankfully, Bungie has supplied us with the number 100 stacks to cause an ignition. However, they don't seem to have given us the numbers for which all of our abilities apply ignition stacks. So I've taken it into my own hands here to kind of sit down and test all these out and see what kind of ability combinations will cause these ignitions. Of course, I'm doing this from a solo perspective. Obviously, if you had team members helping you out, this would be a lot easier, but hopefully this will be a good guide to cause your own ignitions. So with that being said, there's going to be a couple little visuals on screen, and one of the more important ones is going to be whenever the Ember of Ashes is visible. So you'll notice that little icon in the bottom right there, and that will tell you that the Ember of Ashes was either needed for this test to work, or it was just used to show a comparison. So keep that in mind whenever you see that little symbol show up. I will talk over the clips here just to give some extra context to what's going on, but aside from that, I think they're all pretty apparent, so let's go ahead and jump into the clips here. Alrighty, so the first one is the Ray of Precision mod, and whenever you are radiant and get a solar precision final blow, it'll cause an ignition, easy peasy. Next is Incandescent. This mod applies Scorch stacks in an AoE radius whenever you get a kill. So enough stacks will build up and it'll cause an ignition. Easy peasy. The next one here is showcasing the Revitalizing Blast mod, which is whenever you stun a champion, it'll apply an ignition. Here is the Prometheus Lens, which over time will apply Scorch stacks to the target you're shooting. And here is Skyburner's Oath with the same thing. When you're hip firing, it'll apply Scorch stacks over time. I do have two clips of Skyburners here, one with the Ember on and one without the Ember on. Okay, here's the Ember of Combustion, and this is just whatever subclass you're on. The super, getting a kill, will cause an ignition 100% of the time. Alright, and here I'm showcasing how the weighted throwing knife, no matter how many stacks of Scorch you apply, every time you throw it, it'll cause an ignition. As you can see here, I'm using the Thermite Grenade, and every single time the Thermite Grenade ticks, it'll apply a new stack of Scorch, so I can keep throwing my throwing knives over and over, each time causing ignition. Here's a good example of just a standard pairing of ignition. It's just one source being a grenade, the other being my knife trick. Easy peasy. Alrighty, and this clip here is just showing that 2 throws of the knife trick will cause an ignition. I assume that does mean that each knife trick will do at least 50 stacks of Scorch. So just know that every time you throw 2 knives back to back, it'll always cause an ignition. And here I'm just showing the Gunpowder Gamble ignition. It's just the little bonus of the new aspect. This one here is showing off the trip mines and how you can chain trip mines with the Ahamkara's gloves for the hunter, and it's super efficient and you're getting tons of ignitions from it super easily. Next one here is the Caliban's Hand. It's the new exotic. With this, whenever you throw your proximity knife and hit an enemy, it'll cause an ignition 100% of the time, which is really cool. This one here is the new Titan aspect, Consecration. It's a guaranteed ignition if you hit the enemy with both little waves of your Consecration. This one is a combination of a grenade and a hammer strike, easy peasy. And this one is just a guaranteed ignition from getting a kill with hammer strike. The next one here is just showing how sunspots can trigger ignition. As you can see, my grenade killed an enemy, spawned the sunspots, and that sunspot ignited him. Same thing is seen here. This one here is using the Lorelei Splendor exotic to place sunspots. This is just showing that a sunspot on its own can cause ignition. I didn't have to really work for it here and push the enemy into the sunspot. It was kind of awful, and this took me a lot of tries. But eventually I do get him to ignite. As you can see, it only did 8,000 damage, and I am a little confused by that number. I'm not sure why, but the sunspot ignitions, when it's entirely a sunspot, only do 8,000 damage, and you'll see it here with the ult here as well. You see that 8875. So I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's a bug, but either way, it's not cool that's only doing 8,000 damage with sunspots. Maybe Bungie can look into that. Here I'm showcasing how the incinerator snap on its own can cause ignition. Easily one of the easiest ignition starters. This is showcasing how 2 fusion grenades on their own cannot cause an ignition unless you have the Ember slotted. So this second clip here shows that it does cause an ignition. And here we are doing ignition by throwing any grenade except for the firebolts and then placing a well. The next one here is going to be using any grenade except for the firebolts and then doing a Phoenix dive while having heat rises applied. Easy peasy. This one here is showcasing the solar nade. This is the only nade that can trigger its own ignition, at least with my testing. I implore you to try it out. As you can see, we did not get any ignition this time using the Touch of Flame. This time we are using the Ember, and let's see if we get an ignition while using the Ember. And we do. It was a little off screen there, but we did in fact get an ignition with the Ember slotted. This one here is just trying out the Sunbracers since they get a longer duration. I wanted to see if they would cause an ignition without the Ember, and as you can see, they will. I put on the Ember for the next test just to see if it was more consistent, and from my eyes, it does look a lot more consistent. It seems like he did ignite a little bit faster than without the Ember. Let me know what you think of that. The next one here is showcasing the Dawn Chorus, which adds a stacking Scorch to your Dawn Blade projectiles. You'll see I do get 2 ignitions off of 1 Daybreak cast. This time I'm using the Ember, and it does feel more consistent. If you notice the timing of when the second ignition blows up, it does seem a little bit more consistent with the Ember. This is just showcasing how none of the other grenades will work even with the Ember on their own. So first we saw the Incendiary, then the Scatter, and now this is going to be the Thermite, trying my best to keep them in the line, which I do succeed in doing, but even then it still will not ignite. We've also got the Trip Mine, and I try it both sticking it underneath him and also attaching it to him. Neither would cause an ignition. And then here we have Firebolt, which applies the least amount of stacks. As you can see, his little Scorch stacks will fall off before I even throw the second grenade. That's just because there's so few stacks being applied. Here I'm going to try combining a Firebolt grenade with the Phoenix Dive, and I'm unsuccessful in igniting him with that. They both just don't provide enough stacks. And finally, we've got the Well combined with the Phoenix Dive, and once again, it is just not enough stacks to proc the ignition. So those are all of the ignitions that I came up with. If you had any that I missed, feel free to leave them in the comments. I would like to take a moment to say thank you guys so much for all of the positive feedback that you've left on my previous couple of videos. It's been really heartwarming to see the nice comments a lot of you guys are leaving and getting an insane amount of views, as well as I just hit 100 likes on my Hunter video. So it was really cool to accomplish something like that, and I just want to express my sincere thanks just for you guys being so supportive of me and watching my videos and leaving likes and fantastic comments. With all that being said, thanks again, guys. I'll keep working on these if you guys continue to like them, so let me know if these are cool, and I'll keep on pumping them out. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.